Hello, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Dear audience, we are back in 2022 with our interview, with our business talk on IP management. This evening, we are on a place where we have not been before. We are today in Africa, in Tanzania, in Dar es Salaam. And I'm very happy that we have a very special guest. It is Mr Jumanne. And before he will introduce himself to us, I'm also happy to have two accredited guests, Sanas Yavadi Farahazadi and Shurab Panjabi. Shurab is ambassador of the IP Business Academy, and Sanas is university lecturer in our programs at SAPI. So welcome everybody. And now, Nabiri, thank you very much for joining us this evening.
Yeah, sure.
I learned that it's 7 o'clock, so we have here mid-European time 5 o'clock. So you are quite more east. In East Africa. So, Nabiri, be so nice. Explain us a little bit about yourself. So, what is your background? How did you came into this field of IP? Maybe also IP management, and a little bit about IP in East Africa. So, for me, it is let's say far away and. I'm not familiar with the situation, so I'm very happy when I learn a little bit from you about your background.
Okay. My name is they are. I'm called Jumanne, whereby I'm working as a IP attorney from Extent Property Advisory. And I've been working with the IP field for more than now 4 years now, whereby I started back in 2018, whereby we are operating with ECA, which is the corporate and the IP firm in our area. And so far, we do assist a lot of international firms from other areas, assisting them to find their IPs in East Africa also, whereby we also have what we call ARIPO. It's African Regional Intellectual Property Organization. Then I do have a Masters of IP. So I started as the IP attorney, whereby I found out that most of the attorneys were doing other areas. For instance, we have oil and gas. We have what we call like areas of not IP. So we found an issue whereby why do we have most attorneys who are doing other areas and we don't have IPs attorneys? So we had to start our own firm, which is pure based on the corporate and IP issues only. Then for 4 years, which we have been acting for several international firms whereby they do intend to file their IPs in Africa. So we do assist them with the filing of the IPs in Africa. But also, I'm currently acting as a member of counterfeiting of INTA. INTA is called the International Trademark Association. But also, I'm serving as one of the members of the advisory board, whereby we do sit among people from Africa. We are among 70 individuals whom we assist the IT in regard to making some issues in regard to African at large. So this is how we have been having IP, but also I do have a passion of IP. In IP, we have one theory which is said that we either watch it happen or be part of it. So I feel like this is a part whereby most of the youth and most of the firm we need to cater for the IP, because it's one of the areas which has not been much affected in Africa. So we are looking for a way out so that we can have most of the firms, most of the youth who are more passionate about doing IP. So we have been having most of the webinars making awareness of IP, so that we can have a lot of individuals who are doing most of IPs. Because as you know, Africa is like an hub whereby we have a lot of people who are doing a startup IT business. So we need to protect what is coming from Africa. So for now, what I can say, this is what we have been doing in regard to IP. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I think that's quite a special situation, and I would say, could we say that especially the digital transformation and the fact that starting a business in the digital area, it is much easier. It has lower entry barriers. It is faster, that you can grow faster.
Yeah.
Can we say that the digital transformation is a big chance, an opportunity for Africa and African entrepreneurs to run their own business?
I'm sorry?
Can we say that the digital transformation is a big opportunity for African entrepreneurs to start their own business?
Yeah, sure. What I can say, whatever any innovation or idea must be well protected. So I feel like this is one of the areas whereby we need to take opportunity of using IP as one of the areas which can make people who are trying to come with new ideas, new innovation, maybe they can benefit from their own ideas. So I think it's one of the basic opportunity which we can use so far.
Absolutely. Okay, got you. So when we talk about East Africa, so is there so what's going on there? Let's say patents. So who is filing there? Also, which kind of foreigners come into that area and want to file patents? What's going on there right now?
In our area, for instance, we have Tanzania, we have Uganda, we have Kenya, we have Rwanda, we have Burundi, and now we have what call Congo. Congo is formed part of EAC, East African Community, and most of the people who are coming to file their patent in our area, and we receive a lot of queries from Asia. Asia meaning, for instance, we say China and Japan. These are the people who are exporting more of their IPs. For instance, if you look under what the intellectual property organization information, you can see a lot of patents. They are coming from Asia. I remember from the last year, the report, more than 71% was coming from Asia. So you can see how people from Asia are filing they are protecting their their ideas in Africa compared to other people from maybe from Europe, for instance, because we do import a lot of our goods from Asia. So these are the people who do find more than 71% of their applications, they're coming from Asia. So unlike to other areas, yeah.
Okay. And do you see litigation and enforcement of that patents in East Africa?
Yeah, we do see them as one of the areas, but they are not coming so much. But so far, we do receive a lot of patent issues from these areas. So they are not worried because patent litigation in our areas, they do take a lot of time because we do not have expertise from the institutions which can cut and can interpret. So that's why we have been having assistance from Aripo, they have been receiving some of the assistance from WADI intellectual property organizations. So we do receive a lot of, not so many compared, because whenever a patent has been filed in East Africa, they do have a smooth application. So we don't receive a lot of opposition of filing like what we call a patent. Yeah.
Okay. So Sanas asks a very good question here. I mean, from a trade perspective, it is obviously important that East Africa is close to other markets, is a trustful partner in the global exchange of goods and services. So I would say it is important. Having a good IP protection is important for being a part of this international trade. And would you say that that works well in, for example, Tanzania?
Yeah, I can say, for instance, most of the IP laws which we do have here, they're in compliance with international standards. For instance, if you look under the Patent Cooperation Treaty, for instance, if you look under Paris Treaty, for instance, if you look under TRIPS agreement, those are in line with our local laws. For instance, we do have laws. For instance, if you say a patent should be governed for more than 20 years, the same applies in our local laws. So we do not have laws which are in contradictory with international laws. So what I can say, we do have a nice regime of IP. For instance, I can mention one of the best countries which they do have one of the most effective IP regime is Kenya. Kenya is far much ahead compared to other East African areas. So I can say a word of approval from Kenya. Kenya, they do have a well institutional mechanism. And what we've been using so far, we're using one of the database from WIPO. It's called IPAS, online filing system, whereby all the IPs, the patents which are being filed, they're being monitored under WIPO. So I can say we do have much of the awareness. Unlike to other East African countries, Kenya is one of the best area whereby they do have one of the best laws in regard to the protection of intellectual properties.
Interesting. So one question comes from the chat. So the chat is quite busy right now.
Yeah.
So maybe we have time later also to answer all the questions. But one very interesting question comes from Bikash Loya. He asks, is it normal, or what is the ratio? How many filings come via the PCT route to East Africa, and for example, from China, from Japan, from India, and which comes directly the classical route? What would you say?
What I can say, most of the applications do come from PCT route. For instance, the PCT, there are more than 80% of the application which are coming from Asia and the other areas or India, they're coming via this route. More I like to local route because it's some are very cheaper, and as you know from the PCT route, some are very easy and very affordable. I like to having your patent fresh to be examined in our areas. It's some are very tricky because I can say we do not have much of expertise compared when it comes from the PCT. And from the PCT, normally you have a lot of time. It's more than 21 months which can be filed. So you find a lot of patents that they do come from PCT route.
Okay. Let's switch a little bit because we have also questions about trademarks. Sure. And one really interesting question from Arup is he asks, what are trademark filing trends in East Africa, maybe Tanzania, Kenya? Which sectors, industry sectors or businesses, product services receives the majority of trademark filings, and where we see enforcement in which kind of goods? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I can say, for instance, if you look under WIPO research, more than 17 million applications were being issued last year. So you can see most of the applications were coming from Asia to Africa. And we do import most of the manufacturing goods, as you can see, because Asia, one of the largest market is Africa. And when we talk about Africa, we talk about East Africa. So most of the infringement that have been coming from manufacturing industries comparing to other areas, because we do import substandard goods, most of them. So they need to protect their goods so that to minimize infringement.
Okay. So, by the way, many thanks come from the chat that you are so well informed and give us a picture. Another question from Sana is also quite important. She asks. She comes from an international trade perspective, and she asks, when it comes to IP, is it so that the IP is dominantly from external trade partners, from foreigners, who file trademarks and patents in East Africa, or is it also so that the local companies can use that system and understand? You talked about awareness. So, I mean, when we see all the filings coming from outside, then we can assume a certain dominance of foreign companies which dominate the market then. And the question is it also so that companies from the local area are using IP, and do they understand that it is important for them using this competitive instrument, let's say, against also foreign companies?
Yeah, we have to be very honest, for instance, because we have been making a lot of education to see how best locals can protect their application. But more than 95% of applications, they're coming from external. We have to be honest. And most of the local companies which do protect the IPs, they are foreign companies with their areas in our areas. They are coming from other countries, but they do have a place of operations in East Africa. So, but if you find less than 5% of the locals, these are the firms or these are the entities which are being owned by locals, you find there are few minimum applications which they do protect their IPs compared to externals. So that's why we have been trying to see a trend compared to other years. We can make awareness, we make IP awareness so that we can have most of the firms or most of the entities which are being owned by locals, they can protect, they can understand the nature of IP. But for now, if you look at the WIPO and the what you call other research, they do indicate that most of application, they're coming from externals, and you have to be very honest so that we cannot solve a problem by pretending that it did not exist. So we have to understand that there is a problem of awareness to our local. Then how can we do the best to protect it? Because some of them, they think maybe, why should I? So it comes a challenge, but we have been advocating to see how best we can minimize, or we can have most of the local firms do file the IPs. Yeah.
Okay. So that's really a challenge, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
When 95% comes from outside. I mean, that's the good old story about Africa. So now, again, foreign companies come and protect, so to speak, their market approaches, their market access. I mean, it's a big issue. Yeah, got you.
It's a big issue.
So
sure.
that leads us to the next question.
Exactly.
So obviously we have certain challenges here, and so in addition, it's not just the fact of the filings and the ratios and the numbers, it's also the question how to make services around IP available in East Africa. So obviously we have small budgets, we have quite high barriers. I mean, it's a huge distance, which, I mean, Europe is tiny against Africa. That means communication is an issue, traveling, and so we have certain barriers, especially language barriers in addition, which we know very well from Europe. I mean, I know what I'm saying because I'm a professor in France, and I'm not speaking French really, so it's big fun. So making IP services available in East Africa, what would you say? What can we do? What exists there? I know that you created something which might be helpful. Explain us a little bit about the situation.
Yeah, the first of all, we need to use most of the agents which are well informed about IP, so that we can do what you call outsourcing. We need to having local frames which can assist us with the filing of, for instance, according to WIPO research, it indicates that filing of IPs in Africa is much cheaper compared to other areas. So you can find that we need to have lawyers or attorneys who are much informed about IP, so that they can be able to advise us. But also, we need to increase awareness. we, for instance, as we are doing here, for instance, as you are, I was talking with one of my officers here. We said that we need to make much awareness. We need to shout more so that people can understand that there is an opportunity. There is a where an area whereby we can protect our IPs in East Africa. We should make sure that we shouldn't fear maybe what about East Africa? What about Africa? The market is very open. There are a lot of firms, international firms, which are in Africa, which can assist us with the protection of our IPs. Because if we do not protect our IPs, then for instance, now we have the issue of COVID-related issues. We find the dumping area of most of the fake products that they're being dumped to Africa. So we have to find a way out to have most of the frames or most of the attorneys who are more equipped with IP. They can assist us with the filing. And I can say from the research itself, it's much cheaper compared to filing application to other areas.
Okay.
So
okay.
we need first of all attorneys, but also we need to provide the awareness. We need the awareness so that we can have some articles from journals so that people can understand about the IP in Africa is first. Yeah.
Would you say, Sanas says, and I think that's quite important here. Typically, with my European background, I would say we have a lack of awareness, maybe at SMEs or at least at companies, at decision makers in companies. But Sanas made a very good point. Could it be that in East Africa we also need awareness, let's say sessions or trainings also for the public sector, for policy makers? Is that also important that they understand the importance of IP for their countries and for their national innovation systems?
I agree. It's one of the top issue which we have been having so far. For instance, as you understand, IP is one of the new issues compared to other areas, because in Africa and East Africa we do have our own legal issues. So IP is one of the new issues coming in Africa, for instance, I can say. So whenever we advocate for policy institution mechanism to be much aware, so it will be some very easy. They can understand the much aspect of IP. So these are the people who are going to push for IP, because we are not decision makers. These are the people who are making the decision. So even we have I can say from Inter area, where we've been having one of the sessions with decision makers frequently, so that they can understand the changes of IP, because IP it keeps on changing each and every time. So whenever we try to promote and to provide trainings to institutions which they do cater and protect for our IPs, because me and you, we're here from not less than 50 years, but this institution, we stay for 100 and more years. These are the institutions, they do keep records. Unlike to me, I cannot cater for the all international frames to East Africa. But whenever we train these institutions, we equip them. That's why WIPO has been providing technical and different aspects in regard to examination of patents. We have to understand, because most of the patents which are coming from other areas coming to Africa, we do not have expertise they do understand the technical abstract of the patent. So as much we are trying to push for IP coming to Africa, but also we need to equip our people who are making the decision. For instance, I can give one of the recent scenario whereby we've been having, we had one of the PCT application coming to our area. Then examiners were saying that this is not a patent. But how can you say this is not a patent? From which angle are you saying this is not a patent? But after we had a discussion and he was able to understand. So I feel like this is one of the top issue whereby we need to engage most of the decision makers. Even for us here in our area, we have been pushing for some of the changes of IP laws so that we can have favorable IP which can govern and issue adequate protection of most of the areas coming from IP.
Yeah. I mean, Yusuf Mutamba says right now that the aspect of IP management is still lacking in an African setting
I
and
agree.
context,
I agree.
and the focus is really more on the basics. It's exactly what you say. So understanding of IP, awareness about IP, using IP protection, IP enforcement, understanding that. I mean, it reminds me a little bit to the situation some years ago with China, where we had, I said 20 years ago in China, we had a huge discussion about using IP. So now they are so professional and
Exactly.
and have really a business as attitude, and we see very professional IP management there. But I agree totally with you. So it is IP management comes on top. Yeah. So
On top.
that means the legal framework, the basics have to be there before I can say, and now I ask about the pure business behind IP or on top of IP. That's very, very interesting. Um, Another question which I would
Sure.
like to arise is, you founded a legal platform, uh, and that enables people across IP services to get access digitally. What is the role of that digital platform in IP, and what can other countries learn from this? So how does it work? How successful is it? What are the offers, and what can we learn?
What I can say, the world is moving to digitally. So we have to understand we are trying to provide awareness. We started our online app, which offer legal advice in regard to IP and the other areas of the law, which they're in our own language, so that people can understand from our own speaking language. We didn't want to use English because most of them they do not use English. Then we say, okay, let us have awareness of IP. We interpret different laws to our local laws so that people can be able to understand. Even SMEs, they can be able to understand what do you mean by IP. When you say about IP in English, they might not be able to understand it, but they do need IP. So we started our legal, whereby most of the 65% of the people we have in East Africa, they do have smartphones. So why can't we offer legal advice for free of services to people who have a smartphone? And even now, as I'm speaking, we are saving more than 45,000 people who are using our service daily. From the different asking from different, for example, they do ask different questions in regard to IP in the other areas. So we can say we are proud of ourselves because we are trying to make awareness of the IP. We are trying to be a good ambassadors of IP so that people can be able to protect the ideas and inventions, because in Africa there are a lot of inventions which are not protected. For instance, I can assure you that if you look under research from Aripo and OIPO, you can see a lot of inventions, they are not protected because people they have an idea, but they don't think it's what to be offered a protection. So for us, from our own legal platform digitally, we do provide daily SMS. We do provide the legal updates in regard to protection of IPs and the other areas of the law. So as much we're trying to push for awareness, then we should find a light channel whereby we can use it to reach the information to the intended people. Because whenever we try to target the multinational companies, these are the companies which are aware they do have resources. But what about the SMEs, startups? There are a lot of startups from Africa. Are they aware? Are they well equipped about the protection of the IPs? You have heard a lot of the scenarios. We have been having a lot of scenarios. Different startups, they have been complaining, biggest companies taking their own ideas. When you ask, you found that they found that there was no need of having a protection of the IP. So for us, we're trying to put it in a simplest way so that you can be able to understand it on your own way, local way, for instance. Then we can push digitally, because we cannot push for digital, we cannot push for manual papers, because we need a lot of cost, first of all, to produce a lot of books. And people nowadays, they don't we have to agree, we have a lot of issues. People do not read. But if you put it in a simplest way, you push SMS to 1,000 individuals. They read. What about? Do you know you can offer this, this, and this, and this? So it comes very easy for a person to understand, and also it comes very easy for a person to remove the bad idea that in order to protect your invention, maybe you need to have a lot of capital. Then for us, we say no, you need first to understand, and it's not protecting your idea. So what I can say, other places whereby we need to learn, we need to keep on, we need to put our ends together so that we can make awareness. And how do we make? You have to be very honest. People nowadays, things move digitally. So the moment we have different lawyers, different attorneys who are pushing legal awareness. For instance, IP Business Academy, we are advocating to provide legal education in regard to IP via LinkedIn. Most of the decision makers, they're in LinkedIn. Then we'll be pushing to other areas so that people will be able to understand, because a lot of people from our areas have been asking, what's IP business? What IP business? This is an academy whereby we're trying to bring awareness so that people can be able to understand about IP. So we are pushing digital. So for us, we went further ahead to establish what a legal platform so that people can be able to understand anytime. And you can download it via iOS, for instance. People using other phones, website, you can Google anytime and you can have questions. I can assure you, per day we receive more than 2,000 questions which are coming directly to our attorneys. People asking about IP and other legal related issues. So you see, there is a call to action. Maybe you can lead something, then you can ask us. Unlike if you push manually, you can lead. Then how will I have you see, it's very hard. So for us, we are trying to push digital, and I can assure you it's one of the first digital platform in our country. So we have been trying, we have been pushing, we have been having a cooperation from government institutions. We say that we do provide awareness. You can use this our online app free of charge, but also you can recommend to other people so that they can be able to understand. Because the moment we try to push and protect other people's idea, this is how we're making a future people who are coming generation to have a welfare generation. Because otherwise, there are people who are piracy. People will come take their own ideas, but also counterfeit goods. They're coming much to Africa. So if people not be educated, then it will be an issue. So I think it's one of the opportunity we can learn also from our area.
So thank you very much, and by the way, thank you for your enthusiasm about IP. I mean, that's wonderful, and I can only, Nabire, I can only stress the points which you made. Exactly I'm convinced that using digital technology to lower barriers, entry barriers. This is exactly my route. This is the IP Business Academy, what we want to do, and what we do around the globe. We want to reduce the barrier. So we have enough elite knowledge out there. We have enough expert knowledge. That is not our problem. Our problem is that we lose the connection to the typical, to the normal people. They don't understand IP, and you can see that on Instagram, on Facebook, and it's quite a challenge to make LinkedIn to an IP positive world, to an area where IP has a positive connotation. So today, when you post something positive about IP on Instagram, you will earn a shitstorm. So I think that's really a challenge, and I can only agree on all what you said. And I'm admiring you for this platform. You received awards for it, and absolutely deserved. And can you explain? I mean, I would say it works like the IPI help desk to a certain extent. So
Sure.
it's a crowd of experts which you can you get access free of charge to them, and to ask them questions, and they answer to you in not just in your language, also in a language which you understand. Is that correct?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, wonderful.
Yeah.
So when when it comes to using that platform, do you have the idea to expand that even more? So go also to other countries. I mean, it's just a language issue. Then the system can be expanded.
Yeah, sure. We have that idea, but also now, as I'm speaking, by the end of this February, the application will be live in Kenya. So we had one of the local individual from Kenya, which they're doing the same of us. We're trying to have a JV so that we can be able to reach more people. Because for us, what we're looking for is to make the awareness. We not, because each and everything is not about having being paid up. We are looking for to make an impact. So as I can say, for now, we are entering into association with one of the a startup in Kenya, which will be providing the same services to their own language, meaning that they can have our own area. For instance, as I can say, we do differ on some of the few aspects of IP. For instance, you can find a protection of copyright is like 50 years on our end. For instance, maybe you can find a protection for 4 years, 7 years. So we differ. So we are trying to put them on their own laws so that people can understand on their own laws, but also on their own language. So we are trying to push so that we can be able to cover the East Africa, because in East Africa, we do use what we call Kiswahili. It's one of the common language which use most of the East African areas. So we are trying to push for Kenya, and we are trying by mid of June, July, we'll be pushing to other, for instance, like Uganda. So we are trying to push so that to have local partners, attorneys who can assist us to put education on their own laws, on their own legal language, so that people can be able to understand, because it's all having a setup. You just move this IP address to the other country, then they'll be free to use it anytime, depending on their own laws and needs.
Yeah, got you. And one thing is consulting on individual questions. So you are also you also make training and education approaches. So do you run training sessions on that platform?
Yeah, we do record our sessions. We do have them, but also we normally use what you call Instagram, because most of the people whom we intend to cover, youth, most of them, 75% of individuals, they do use Instagram. And so we are trying to push, and we are trying to go further by using animations whereby we are trying to cover for the people or students who are there, because whenever you put something like animation, people, they come attracted to understand what is this. So we are trying to find a way out so that we can attract it, people can enjoy, but also people can be able to understand. So we are trying to move further by using animation, but also, as I can show you, we have been having local media interviews. We have been pushing interviews to many international medias. For instance, we have British Broadcasting Corporation. We have also been using that, but also we've used other medias in our area so that we can be able to reach a lot of people from our own area. So we'll be using also animation so that even students can find the love and passion for IP when looking for animation. Oh, you say, oh, this is all about IP. Yeah.
Very good, very good. Yeah, I think that's a very good way, in terms of using the medium which is understood, and using a way to tell the story in a way that it is understood. Because that is, we see that in the United States, in Europe, quite often, that experts hiding themselves behind certain, slides and very important wordings, and so simply what they really say is, I know it, and I don't want that you know it. And what I want is that at the end of my presentation, you come to me and you ask for help, because I explained to you that you know nothing and you won't ever know anything. and
It's a bit
so
challenge.
yeah, I mean, we see that so often, and I think a colleague, Bastian Best, said it is so important to share knowledge, because knowledge can be shared, and it is not harmful. It is good when everybody has knowledge, but at the end, when it comes to solving problems, yeah, you need experience and you need a practical way of doing it, and then the time of the expert come for solving a problem, but not for sharing knowledge. And so we have often people who are afraid, so they want to sell their knowledge, and I think that is not a good way. The best way is sharing knowledge, and when it comes to a problem, an issue which has to be solved, then you can be paid for your experience how to solve problems, and not that you know something.
Sure.
So I like that. I like that very much. So, are there other platforms also? So, I learned that now from Instagram. So, you have also activity on LinkedIn for that.
Yeah. Sure. We do also. Yeah.
And you share there also these videos, because LinkedIn is a different platform. We have here. We have here not the Instagram guys, so here we have business to business people.
Yeah.
Do you use a different way of communicating there?
The only idea which we have been using so far, because we are trying to find the local companies which are in LinkedIn, so that they can be able to understand. So for meantime, we are trying to put much awareness. We are trying to put our house in order, so that the local firms, local companies, they can try to understand, because we do not look for international people who are coming from the end, because they already have a bit understanding. But for us, we are trying to push for the people from our own countries who are using LinkedIn, so that they can be able to understand, because it's a business to business also. And we have been receiving some of the I can say, like, companies which have been asking from LinkedIn itself. They've been asking, oh, this is aware of this, because you can find a company says that they do own a patent or a corporate or any industrial property, but they are not aware that it can expire. So that, oh, we do have okay, do you pay maintenance fee? Do you pay for renewal? So I didn't know that. So you find that there is a bit we need to provide much awareness, and we are trying to do it via different areas, but also most especially on LinkedIn. We do post twice or per week. On Monday we do post, and even on Wednesday we do also post. So we have been consistent to post as much as we can. And even during IP day, we make physical interaction. We invite a lot of local firms, local companies, so that they can come physically, and we can interact and ask different knowledge. We can share knowledge and get to protection of their own IPs.
Yeah, perfect. So lots of congratulations and hand clapping happens on the on the feed, because what you say is, I would say, honey in the ears of the whole system. That without awareness, all what we're doing is nothing. So we need that people understand how important is it. So thank you very much for the moment. I have to say thank you also to our accredited guests. They were very active. Thank you, Sanas, for being with us, and thank you, Sharab, for your comments. Nabil, I know that it is 2 hours later in Dar es Salaam than here in Munich, but please come with us to LinkedIn now. We switch to the feed, and then we can exchange our thoughts. And there are many questions which I did not pick up, because I wanted to listen to what you have to say. So we should answer to the questions as good as possible on LinkedIn. Thank you very much. Thank you to LinkedIn to make that possible. What happens here? So Warm greetings to Africa. To Africa, thank you very much, and thank you for your work. It is brilliant.
Sure.
Having people like you in the IP business is wonderful. Thank you to the audience. See you next time. Bye bye.
Okay, bye bye. Bye bye.